All right, so today's session will go over software development lifecycle framework. So in this session, we'll cover what is software. I think most of you guys already know what is software, so I don't have to kind of go through that again. What is software development? What is SDLC, which is software development lifecycle? That's three key things we're gonna go over. Phases, right? So we already know there is 5 phases in project management. So for SDLC, means software development lifecycle, there are also phases, and in this case, there are 8 phases. So we'll kind of go over those phases, and then we'll talk about validation in software testing and verification in software testing. So those are the things we'll go over in today's session. Okay, and there will be some homework question, which I will kind of cover later. And there is also a video out there, what is software development. So maybe after finishing the session, maybe when you come back to it, try to watch that video. It kind of covers um, essential things. So let's get going. Okay, so session 3, software development lifecycle framework. So session topic, we're gonna go over software. What is software? What is lifecycle? What is SDLC? Fundamental of SDLC. SDLC what? Software development lifecycle. So that's something you guys have to kind of keep that in mind. Um, Phases, go over each phases, verification and validation. So that's where I'm gonna go over or explain what is the difference. Okay, so I think I already kind of covered many times what is software. Set of function or task that are executed in a form of programming language in a compatible device and platform. You see, like device and platform. Device is what? It can be your iPhone, iPhone. It can be your Android device. It can be your Windows laptop. Platform is what? Operating system. It can be iOS. It can be Windows operating system, or it can be like Android operating system. So that's the definition of software. If somebody asks you, if you just say, just said this one liner is more than good enough. Okay. So programming language. What is programming language? The programming language which software able to understand in performing particular task or function. So everything's, I mean, when we talk each other, we use one sort of language, right? To communicate with the software, or the software, if software need to know what it has to perform, you have to tell that software in their language, right? In this case, the programming language is their language. Make sense?
Yes.
Compatible device and platform means whatever device that software is going to run, or whatever operating system that software is going to run or application going to run. So you see that? So this is like, think that is, this is an operating system and this is the application or software. So those are the, operating system and application, how those two things are kind of related to each other. Any question? Okay.
Yes.
Um, so programming language. So many times when you will go to interview, or when somebody is going to ask you, let's say you work on Muslim Pro application, okay, so that Muslim Pro application is probably built in with specific programming language, right? So you need to know what programming language was used to build that application. So there are varieties of programming languages are out there. It kind of depends on whatever application that they built on, right? Because there's some Windows application they are built on, let's say VB script or C sharp or something else. Like there are some other applications built in with Java, right? So in this case, you need to know different programming languages that are out there. So they are like JavaScript, Python, Java, C++, PHP, Swift. So those few things, I think C++, Java, Python, JavaScript, C sharp, those are very commonly used programming language.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the difference between JavaScript and Java?
So they're a little different. The syntax wise, there are difference. Java is more like Java is the most commonly used programming language. JavaScript is older version.
Okay.
Okay, so older version is a very older version. So most of the people Now they're kind of migrated to Java.
Okay.
And as I said before, you guys don't need to know a lot of about programming language. You guys don't need to know the syntax and all those different things. But it's kind of good to have some basic idea, right? What is the programming language? So that's gonna be good enough. Any other question, Shabuz bhai? Do you get it?
Right.
Okay, very good. Okay, operating system. I already covered that, right? Microsoft Windows, Android, Apple, Mac OS, Linux. So those are 5 commonly used operating system that are out there. Okay. All right. So what is software development? So software development and in IT and project management in IT, they're, let's say, 85% same. Okay. So project management in IT means like information technology, right? So in
Yes.
this area, whenever people say I'm working on a project, I'm working on a XYZ project, right? Let's give an
Mm.
example. So what they're trying to say, they are also working on under some sort of software development process.
Development process.
Okay.
Mm.
So always think that way. Project management is more like kind of business term or talking about how a project is going to implement in overall way, like from gathering to closing. Same thing SDLC, it kind of like software development. So let's say you as an QA analyst or developer, to build your software, they need to follow certain rules, steps, correct? So what steps they need to follow, what phases they have to go through to build that software, that will kind of talk about in the software development process. Make sense?
Yes, তাহলে আমরা বলতে পারি যে সফটওয়্যার ডেভেলপমেন্ট লাইফ সাইকেল হলো যে ওই যে স্টার্ট টু এন্ড পর্যন্ত যে প্রসিজার গুলো ইয়ে করা হয় না ওইগুলাই।
Exactly. I mean, development process from initiation. In this case, it would be like planning. It would be like I think 7 or 8 different phases. So
হুম,
each phase has their own significance, means has their own function. So we'll kind of go over what happened in each phase.
হুম,
If somebody asks you like which phase in the software development life cycle you are part of, you probably
হুম,
can say, okay, I was taking part in all different SDLC phases, but most commonly I was taking part in testing phase. So
yes,
that's how you should like kind of talk about.
okay.
So what is software development? So it's a process where programmers and developers are same thing, build the software to serve business or personal goals and objectives. Business or personal. So in this case, business mean stakeholders, right? So
হুম,
if the stakeholder is saying, okay, I need to have a software built so my customer can place an order in online. So this is his purpose. Okay, this is his goal.
হুম,
Okay, so when you build something to serve their purpose, the process of building that software or application is called software development. Okay, so this process consists of steps, phases that corresponded with specific guidelines of rules to deliver the software. So as I said, every phase has their own rules, right? So
Mhm.
when each of those phases will, I mean, when we go through each phase, there are certain things that will happen. So when you know what happened in each phase and what is your role as a QA analyst for each phase, it will make your job much easier, right? So you don't have to worry about, okay, so let's say I'm in initiation phase in SDLC, what would be my role? You don't have to ask those questions to yourself because you already know what those are, correct?
হুম,
So that's why it is very, very important, or there are a bunch of interview question will come from that area, software development life cycle. So characteristic of the process. So what is the significance or what is the benefit,
হুম,
benefit of this process, right? So formal guidelines in developing software. Formal guidelines means it has some sort of rules. It has some sort of instruction, correct? How we should develop a software. If you follow this process, it will help you to build the software properly. You're not gonna miss out anything. The second is various components and process lead to workable product. means I mean, there's a bunch of things. There are a bunch of things actually going to um, play a role in building a software. Means like when you build a software, you have to think about whether all those hardware, right? Hardware are out there, because a software for building a software, they need to make sure the software is running on a platform or application, right? Or operating system. So they also need to make sure that there are a bunch of computers or iOS or Windows operating system are out there, so they can able to test their software. So there are various things they have to consider when they build the software. So when you follow this SDLC process, it will make sure you are not missing out those things, different areas. Set of actionable items to meet the end user requirement, means it also kind of go through the process of gathering the requirement, or the process of gaining the correct information from end user. So end user is the person who is going to use that software or application, right? So it will go through those process to collect that information. So it will consist what? Researching, designing the solution. Researching means they will research, they will do some sort of conversation with the end user. End user means the client or maybe the customer, right? They will maybe talk to them and ask them, okay, we are building a software, so what kind of thing you want to see in the software? They're probably going to say, I like to see my invoice as part of my order or something like that. They probably give some feedback, whatever they want to know. So if you follow that process, you make sure that you gather those information ahead of time or during the development of software. Designing the solution, the process of we design the software. Implementing means when you design something, let's say we design a house, right? That's how we're going to build the house. That's how we kind of agreed upon. That's how we get the permission from city or state, correct? So now we have to implement this solution. So we're gonna now everybody will get together and build that house, just to make sure that based on what? Based on the design specification that was provided. So that will also cover that. Testing, it will also cover the testing and release to end user. So once the testing is complete, it will go to who? End user. So as you can see, I mean, it covers everything. So it's not going to miss out, it covers everything. And that's why it is very, very important that every company follow the software development process. Any question?
No.
Okay. So there are bunch of software development processes are out there, right? So one of them, waterfall, spiral. So those for now, I'm not going to explain you what each of those methodology or process are, because I have some other session that can go through each of them. But just keep that in mind. What are the different methodology or different processes are out there? Because software development process, you guys can think of kind of guideline or kind of rules, right? In mathematics, we follow some sort of rules, right? A plus b equal a plus b whole square equal a square plus 2ab plus b square, right? That's kind of a rule or formula. The software development life cycle is kind of a formula, but under this
So what is the
formula,
framework?
I'm sorry,
What is a framework? I mean, we have.
framework, that's what I'm going to say. So framework is more like skeleton structure. So the framework means okay, so I'm building a house, right? I'm going to have 5 columns, I'm going to have pillar, all those things. So now you have all those things there. So now your job is to whether you're gonna use the dry wall, or you're gonna use some sort of fancy wall, or whatever you can use is up to you. But the frame itself, everything is set up. So you basically going to pick and choose which what materials or what things you will be put in place, or what things you will follow to make your house look pretty, right? So the framework is more everything they're just kind of set it up. You have to have those it's called standard, right? Because if you build a house in America or in New York, you have to follow like city guideline, right? The city will give you, okay, when you build a house you must have to have some sort of sewerage line, you must have to have some sort of like gas line or something like that. You need to have those are their guidelines. So when you build a software, the SDLC framework is some sort of guideline. Make sure you need to have those things as part of your software development process. Does it make sense? Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I will kind of explain more in my next sessions, waterfall, spiral, B model. But for now, just kind of keep that in mind. Those are different types of processes for software development. It's like different methodology. They call it methodology. Okay.
Okay.
So waterfall is one way of developing the software. Spiral is another way of developing a software. But framework, which is software development lifecycle, remains same.
Okay.
I know it's kind of confusing, but always think about some other different example, right? Whatever example I gave you, think that and apply that thought to this topic. Then it will make sense. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the life cycle. So software development life cycle. So what is life cycle? So life cycle means the process of building a software. So our human life cycle is what? Getting birth to die, right? So this is the same thing. In this case, it's more like when you start creating a software to finish creating that application or software. That's the entire duration is called life cycle. Make sense? So SDLC is a sequential phases steps in developing a software application. The SDLC process followed for a software project within a software organization. So what they're saying, this framework, so sometimes they call it process, sometimes they call it framework, so don't get confused whenever they use SDLC, it's a process or framework, same thing, okay? Followed for a software project within a software organization. So every organization who is going to build the software, I would say 95 or maybe 100% of the time, they will follow that SDLC process. Okay, this is like standard or guideline. It consists of detailed plan describing how to develop, maintain, replace, alter, or enhance specific software. So in this guideline or standard, there is a way you can able to tweak something. Let's say you you make something, right? You build something and then you realize there is some stuff that you missed out, right? So if you follow that rules or guideline, there is a way you can go back and fix that thing so that the end user or client will not gonna get impact. Okay, so it's also kind of covered that area. And the third bullet point is the life cycle refers to methodology for improving the quality of software and the overall development process. So we talk about software quality and quality control, right? Software control, quality control. So if you follow that, you are ensuring both things. It is good quality software and it's also following all those different QA standards or quality assurance standards, right? So that's kind of also covers that. So that's the significance or that's the importance of SDLC process. Any question? Because I know I covered a lot of things. So anything that you don't understand?
When we will do revision, then we will. I mean, I personally think that আমার মনে হয় যে যখন ওইটা রিভিশন করব তখন মানে পুরোপুরি মাথায় ঢুকবে আর কি।
Exactly. So I think what is the best approach is once after this session, because I found like very helpful. After every session, you guys should go over the notes right away, and because at that time everything what I said will be in your mind very fresh, right? So when you read something and then if you just write it down, and if you come back after a month or a week, then when you read those it will make sense. It will just kind of say, oh, I know that, okay, that's how it was. Because whatever I wrote in here, it is my definition of the process. But when you read my definition and then use your own definition and come up with something else, that will remain in your head all the time. So that's why I always tell people after the session, don't just kind of close your laptop and then forget about it for next couple of days. Don't do that. Maybe spend another 1 hour. Go over them, write it down, and then like if you come back after a month, it will be in your head, or you will know what is that process is. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So SDLC phases. Okay. So there are like 7 or 8 phases. So when I say 8, as you can see, planning and initiation. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So sometimes if you go and search in online, sometimes they break down that planning and initiation too differently. Sometimes they would have initiation first and then planning. So in those type of definition, there probably would have 8 phases, right? But truly, like in the real project, those two things happen in the same time. Okay, so those planning and initiation happen happening in exact same time. In that case, I thought that maybe just combining those two would be good enough. But if you just said there is 7 SDLC phases with planning or initiation being one phase, and then you go through requirement gathering, design, development, testing, implementation, and maintenance. If you just say that, that's also a good answer. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I would say this is nothing to remember. You guys have to probably memorize those phases like planning, then requirement gathering, design, coding, development. So sometimes because it's 7 phase or 8 phase, sometimes people kind of forget those phase names. So I would say maybe kind of memorize them, the name itself. Then when I go over what happened each phase and I'll give you the explanation, then it will be easier for you to understand truly what is happening in each phase. So for now, I would say make sure you remember that no matter what, by memorizing it or by kind of doing something else is up to you. But this is very, very, very important thing. Those 7 phases, you need to know what those are. Any question?
No.
No.
Okay. So initiate. So in this case, identification, planning, analysis, requirements, design, development, testing, implementation, right? Maintenance. So like I kind of like show you guys 8 things together, but in this graph, for your understanding purpose, I kind of said like those 2 things you can combine. Like if in interview they say like what happened in identification or initiation phase. So identification and initiation are same thing. Okay. So don't get confused. Identification is more like what you are identifying thing. Initiation is same thing. I mean, it just kind of initiate the process. Okay, so those are same thing. So I kind of break it down so you guys can able to see what is happening. So in identification, this is a decision making stage where all stakeholders come together and decide what needs to be done to address the problem. In this phase, the feasibility study. So this is a kind of uncommon word. Feasibility study means they will do some sort of research or market analysis. So let's say if you are building a product, right? So let's say if you are building a product and you need to know whether this product will sell in the market or not, you're probably gonna go and talk to 10 different people, right? Say, hey, I'm building something. What do you think? Do you think I can able to sell it? Do you think I can able to make profit out of it? So they will do some sort of like analysis of their product, correct? So what is happening in this phase? So they will do some market research. They will decide what needs to be done to address the problem. So address the problem means like whatever they're trying to accomplish. It can be their business service or it can be their anything else. If the solution will meet the need. So in this case, they will talk about if they go to 10 different customer and if those customers say like, hey, I think whatever you are building is not good because you are missing XYZ or something, right? You are missing something. So they will kind of go back and kind of rethink their approach of building the software. and ROI is called return on investment. So this is a kind of keyword. So ROI means return on investment. So they're probably gonna think in this phase, the stakeholders going to think whatever they're putting money on. So let's say if they're spending $1 million, they're gonna ask themselves whether the amount I'm spending is it going to be like profitable, or whatever I'm building is it going to give me back my investment. So those kind of things they will talk about. Make sense? Okay. Then planning. So in this phase, the roles and responsibilities of who will be performing what part of the project task will be defined. So let's say now they did the analyzation and then they realized that, okay, if I invest $1 million, I will make profit of like, $500,000. So they will kind of say, okay, now it looks good. Now let's get together and start planning, means how to develop that software or service. That's what happened in the planning phase. So they will discuss, let's say, who will be doing what. So who is going to, which company going to implement this project, or which software company going to build that software. So those kind of discussion will happen in the planning or analysis phase. So the estimated time to complete the project and projected phase rollout schedule will be identified. They will talk about how long it will take to what complete the project, and schedule, right? Because they will probably talk about, okay, it will take like maybe 6 months. So they will set a deadline means like they will set a goal. They will say, okay, by the end of the year we need to have this software developed and go live, means like go to production or go to end user. Okay. The resource requirement and technological challenge will be reviewed in the planning phase, means they will talk about whether they have enough people or not. So let's say they're thinking about implementing like $1 million software, like it will cost $1 million to build the software. Now they will gonna think, okay, so since I'm investing that much money, and since I have very tight deadline, means I have to finish that software by end of this year, they will ask themselves whether they have enough people or enough resource to build that software or not, right? So those kind of discussion will happen in this planning phase. Any question in those two?
No.
Okay, all right. The next is requirement. So I think from these two onwards, I think I kind of covered, not covered means I kind of touch base on last session when I talk about business analyst and system analyst type of thing.
Yes.
So requirement is what? So requirement is nothing but whatever client is looking for. Okay. If I want to build a house, I would be giving you my requirement or my need. Like I need to have a house with 5 bedrooms. So I'm the person who is making this decision what I need, because I'm the person who is giving you the money. Correct? So
Yeah.
those are called requirements. So my specification and whatever I want, that called requirement. Okay. So in this case, in this phase, we'll talk about some functional and non-functional requirement. So who write the non-functional requirement? Business analyst.
Yes.
Business analyst, they go to the client, they get the initial information, like what they need. They need 5 bedroom, they need 4 bedroom. They get those kind of information. They don't get the information of the measurement. They're probably not gonna know like all those different like internal things.
Non-technical.
So who knows that? Technical. And in this case, who is the technical one? The system analyst, right?
System.
System analyst will gather that information or will come up that information based on whatever information the business analyst get from client. Make sense?
Yes.
So this is a crucial phase, means this is where will decide whether your project going to pass, or is the project going to be fail. Fail means disaster. Let's say they did not collect the requirement properly. So client was saying I need 3 bedroom, but you made 1.5 bedroom or something like that. So they did not do proper job in gathering the requirement, right? So at the end, when the developer build the software, or when the builder build the house, and the client kind of come back to see what they did, and if they found out this information, if they found out this thing, they're probably not gonna like it. Because why? Because those 2 guys did not get the requirements properly. They did not collect the requirements from the stakeholders properly. So that's why it's called crucial phase. Means project most of the project will kind of depending on this phase, whether the business analyst or system analyst gather the requirement correctly or not. So without solid and clear defined requirement, the project is not going to be successful. Exactly, that's what I was telling. If they don't able to collect those information properly, the project is going to be fail. So that's why this requirement phase is very crucial. Do you guys understand this phase? Because this is very crucial thing for you guys, because of the interview. They're probably gonna ask you some of those. They'll talk about what kind of requirement business analyst will gather, what kind of requirement system analyst will gather. So you have to say functional requirement, non-functional requirement. Who gathered the non-functional requirement? You have to say business analyst, right? So you see, in this 3 line, you're probably can have 4 or 5 different questions. So that's why it's very crucial for you to understand. Okay. So next is design, right? So let's go back to our home building example. So now the client, or now the person give you the information how they want to build their house, right? So they say 5 bedroom, 4 bedroom. So now architecture now is more like, designer who will going to design the house. Then he will going to say, okay, I'm gonna have some sort of wall in between. Let's say I'm gonna have 3-inch wall in between the rooms, right? I'm gonna have 7 feet higher ceiling or something like that, correct? So they will kind of design the entire house, correct? So this the same thing in software development. Once they gather the requirement, there will be some sort of designer. So designer means, let's say if you're like building a website, like in this case my website, right? So the designer is basically going to go through the website, and they will say, okay, this is the bar, right? This is the menu bar. The designer will pick, okay, I'm gonna pick blue color for the menu bar. So they will say, okay, for menu bar we're gonna have blue color, and in that menu bar we're gonna have home, courses, blog, all those different options, right? And in the sidebar we're gonna have all those session topics or something like that. So the designer will kind of design that front end. Front end means whatever we see from the outside. That's what they're gonna design. You know, they're not gonna design anything about when you click. Let's say if you click something, whether you're gonna take you to the home screen or not. That's something they're not going to do anything. They're just gonna give you some sort of design and show you that that's how it's going to be. Okay. So in this phase, the designer will just going to design the software or application. They're not going to add any programming logic, or they're not going to write any code. They're just going to design the front end application or software. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So again, this is another crucial thing. You have to understand the difference between design and development. So design phase, they're designing that user interface. The development phase, what is happening? Development phase, the developer is doing the real work. So this is another crucial phase, guys. So development phase, developer start coding the application based on whatever design the designer came up with, right? So developer now going to add some programming logic. So in this case, let's say they build the software, so build the user interface with just different types of like object, different type of like option, right? So now in this case, the developer is going to like add some sort of like programming codes to it, right? So they're probably gonna add something like those are like kind of example of different um, types of class or different types of things they use. So those probably like just considered as that as a programming code. So they're the one going to write those different codes behind the scene. So when you click something, let's say if you click on that, if you go there, it will able to take you to the right page. So all those logic, the developer will going to add that by using what? Programming language. Make sense?
Yes.
So think that way. Um, let's say like let's say you build something, right? You just kind of build prototype. Prototype means like you build some sort of sample. So based on the sample, the developer is going to like add more function to it. Like that sample, you said like this is how it look like, but I'm thinking once we click on that, once we click on some home option, I'm hoping that it will take me to different page, it will take me to different website. That's what the designer will probably tell them, that that's how I design something in front end. But the developer will add the logic to it. Developer will add some programming logic behind the scene, so whenever somebody clicks something, it will take to the right page. So that's why the development phase is crucial, and that's where, like, let's say 60 or 70% of the work will be done. Like 70% work will be in the development phase, and maybe can let's say maybe like 10% will be in the requirement gathering phase, and then another 20% will be in the testing phase, like when we test something. So that's how the like the amount of work is typically broken down into software development process. Make sense?
Mm.
Okay, so this is a crucial phase. In this phase, the developers start coding and do their unit testing. This is the longer phase. What I tell you, 80% of the time would be, I mean, 70% of the work will be in this phase. So this is a longer phase among all SDLC phases. Input from previous phases played significant role in this phase. When they say input, what is mean? What that mean? Input means requirement gathering, design, right? Input means the developer will work based off those two document, functional requirement document and non-functional requirement document, and also they will work based on the design that designer made, right? That's why they said the input from previous phase played a significant role in this phase. That's what they said. So let's say now they build that, they coded that. So now they will be performing some sort of like unit testing. They will make sure that their code is working fine. And then upon testing, the developer will build the deployment plan. So deployment plan means, so they finish their testing. So now they have to send that to QA, right? They have to send that to us for test. So they build something, they did some initial testing, they say, yep, looks good. Now they will push their change, not push, they will like move their change or code to a different place, um, where actually like the QA tester will going to perform their testing. So think that way. I mean, they're gonna build something in one room. Now they will take those things and give it to another guy. Another guy is us, QA tester. We will be taking that work and start testing, right? So that's what happened. So this is our stuff, right? This is what you guys will be spending most of the time on in this phase. So whenever I say like where are you gonna spend more of time, you're probably gonna say yes, in the testing phase. QA analyst will probably spend most of their time in doing what? In testing. So whenever the developer builds something, now they will have to make sure that whatever they build is kind of meeting the business requirement and what? System requirement. Make sense?
Mhm.
So So after the code is promoted to test environment. So the promoted means like, when they move their change to one place to another. So in this case, environment means nothing but different instant on a different platform. Okay. So they build something in one database or one environment. So environment means like, platform, think that way. They build something in one platform is their like, only their workplace. Yeah, sorry. The environment means workplace, think that way. So they build something in their workplace. So in the workshop, they build something in their site, right? So now they're saying, okay, I built something now. It is your job is to test. So they will give that product to someone else or someone else position. So they will start doing their testing, right? So environment means nothing but workplace where this thing will happen. So they will move from one place to another. And quality assurance engineers started to conduct different types of testing. Means they will be doing different types of testing. So those different types I will kind of cover in other sessions, but keep that in mind. There are like probably seven or 5 or 6 different sessions just to cover those job function, because this is what your role is, right? You need to know how to do stuff, how to write stuff, like what kind of thing you have to do. So I have probably like 6 or 7 session in this curriculum. So if you look at that, testing process and types, all those are kind of related to that testing phase, software testing life cycle and all this. So that time I will cover more. Okay. So the next is implementation. So this is very, you're probably not going to do anything in this phase. Is someone else will be taking part. The implementation means like, let's say you finish testing, there is no defect, there is no bug. So now you said everything looks good. Now then another type of people or another group of people going to take that software or take that change or whatever the developer built, they will move that to another environment. Another environment means workplace. In this case, it's not workplace, it's called like final place where the client going to see their product. So when I say final place means, let's say like if you go to a car manufacturing company, the workers will build the car, right? And then they will send the car to some test team to start testing, right? So they will test that car, and the next is what they will put that on the market, correct? So in this case, the implementation means the testing is done. So now they actually put that product in the market, or in this case, they kind of launch that product in website or as a software or end user. Make sense? So in this phase, there's some group of people they're the one who is going to make that thing happen. You won't be part of anything. So once you said that testing is complete, there's no defect, there's no bug, then another group of people will take that piece of software, product, or application. They will launch to the website. They will launch to the real site where the users, client or users, going to interact with. In this implementation phase, maybe there is some sort of UAT tester, right? Maybe they have some sort of business testing people. They will be start doing some sort of testing just to make sure that there is nothing got weird, there's nothing is weird or nothing is bad. They will do some sort of initial level of testing, or not initial, more business testing, make sure nothing is broken. So that's also gonna happen in this phase. So once everything is done, that's when they will put that website in the market. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Pabi, does it make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I know it's very a lot of information, to be honest. But as I said, after you finishing the session, make sure you go over those lecture notes, and that will give you good understanding what those different phases are. And the maintenance. So think about car maintenance. That's it. The car maintenance means when you buy a car, every 3 months, 4 months,
Or
you have to,
change.
yeah, you have to take your car to workshop to for the oil change, this, that, right? Same thing in website. Every often they have to kind of make sure that there is no defect. Let's say they found some issue in the car, so they will be fixing that, right? Every it can happen in every 2 months, it can happen like every 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. Whenever that they found some issue, they will start putting fix. Okay. Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
let's say if you think about your car, right? Let's say you want to add some additional features in your car. In this case, what are you gonna do? You're gonna take to the workshop and you're gonna tell the guy, hey, add something else on the car, and I'm gonna pay for it. But the same thing in the website. So after they go live or after it launch in the in the web, if client request additional thing, it will go through that phase. It will go through some maintenance. They will add more stuff to it, and then they will relaunch that to the website. Same thing like car maintenance. Like once they add something else, they will say, okay, here you go, everything is ready for you now. You can go ahead and use it. Correct. So same thing with the maintenance. Does it make sense? That's
Yeah.
the best possible
Mm-hmm.
explanation I can give, because people get confused. Oh, I don't know what is maintenance phase, blah blah blah. But always think about those different examples I'm giving, and then try to relate that to this definition.
Okay.
So once code is deployed to production, code is what? Whatever the developer worked on, right?
Yeah.
There is need for post implementation support. Means sometimes you need to kind of do some sort of maintenance in case there are issues. So there will be designated personnel. So there will be some different person. It's not going to be your job to provide the support for certain period of time. So let's say after it goes live, there will be some people going to kind of oversee that, right? To make sure there is no issues. If any major issues arise, so if there is some big issues, it will come back to who? It will come back to you, not you, the developer. It will come back to the developer. They will fix that. So if they found some major mechanical issue in your car, you will take your car to the dealership, right? They will fix the car and they will give it to you back. Correct? The same thing. If they find any big issues, they will push back to the developers. They will fix it and they will give you back. Make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think we're
So when they're gonna do the test, final test, it's not working, then what gonna happen? It's not
yes.
gonna, the project is not gonna done.
No.
Uh, so
Yeah, so that's a good question because I didn't say anything about it. So if let's say in here, right,
mhm,
they found some issue, the tester found some issue, right? They will ask these guys, the developer, to fix that issue. So let's say in testing they found particular button or particular option is not working. They will tell the developer, say, hey, I found some defect or bug. Can you take a
mhm,
look at it? And those people who are gonna take a look at it, they will say, okay, I know this is an issue, so let's kind of fix it. So they will fix that issue and they will send you back to who? Us, to do what?
mhm,
Retest, right?
yes,
So that's
mhm,
what gonna happen. It will not stop the project. It's more like it will go back to them and it will come back to us to retest. Make sense?
mhm.
And then the
Mm-hmm.
flow will continue. Clear, Bobby?
G.
Okay, good. Um, the next is verification in software testing, right? So when okay, so most of the people get confused here. So when you hear the word verification in software testing or in SDLC or in project management, think that as a visual inspection. No, the visual inspection means if I tell you that, hey, can you check the clock? Can you look at the clock and tell me how many number you can see?
Mm,
You're probably gonna look at the number 1 to 12, right? You
Yeah.
can say like there are 12 number there in the clock. That's what you're gonna say.
Okay.
So the verification means by looking at it, by looking something, you can tell, okay, this is there, looks good. I'm not even gonna touch it. I'm not gonna even do anything. So when you do something like that, it's called verification in software testing. So in this example here, when people say verification in software testing, you are basically verifying the software without really testing it, just by looking at it. So let's kind of go back to this example. So if I have the document saying, okay, the website should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 menu bar, you know. So they will tell you, they will give you a document saying, okay, it should have 7 menu bar. You're gonna say, okay, there is 7 menu bar, I can see them, but I'm not gonna click anything. I'm not gonna click on it. I'm not gonna test any further. I'm gonna just kind of visually see whether it is there or not, and you're gonna match with whatever in the requirement. So if the requirement it should have 5, you're gonna see, okay, it has 5. That's meet my expectation. So so the verification is checking every pieces of the item. Suppose, look at that. Suppose you are building a chair. Verification means checking all parts of the chair, whether all 4 legs are correct size or not. If one leg is not right size, it will not stand properly. So if they tell you that, those chair, like, by looking at it, like, if you think that, there's one chair leg does not have correct measurement, by looking at it, you can see that, it probably like wobbling, right?
Mm.
In the website, if you see that there's one is missing, say, hey, there should be 6, I'm seeing only 5, what happened? So by looking at it, you can kind of confirm, okay, there's not, you did not do something right. So that's what is the verification. So verification, so those are more like interview type of thing. The verification is done at the starting of the development process. Means before those people start coding, that guy start coding the software, the verification will be done in the design phase or in the requirement phase. Means in the requirement phase, you're probably gonna read the requirement. You're probably gonna say, okay, this requirement kind of look like good to me because it is covering every scenario or every single thing by reading it, right? By reading the requirement, you can. So let's say requirement is saying like, a chair should have 4 legs. That's the requirement is saying, right? By reading at the requirement, you can ask yourself, yeah, that makes sense. Chair should have 4 legs. Like if the requirement says the chair should have 3 legs, by reading it, you can say, yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense. So by reading some document, you can able to, like, ask yourself or ask your BA or SA saying, hey, you did not write it properly, correct? So those kind of thing is called also verification. Same thing in the design phase. So based on whatever you have in the requirement, if you look at the requirement and if you kind of go to the design phase, or if you go to the website or like, some place and kind of see there is only 5 things or 4 things there instead of 6, then you can say, hey, you did not design that properly. So that's why it called the verification happen in when in the starting of the development process. Make sense?
Yes.
Mhm.
So make sure that the product is designed to deliver all functionality of the customer. So by reading the requirement and doing the verification, you can confirm that, okay, this product will going to meet customer expectation by reading the requirement. Same thing, let's go back to the chair example. But if you find the chair is missing 1 leg, you're probably gonna say, okay, that's not gonna serve the customer purpose, right? You'll say like, okay, there's some issue there. And it includes reviews of meetings, walkthroughs, inspection. Means like sometimes to do that verification, you have to talk to business analyst, system analyst, the designer. Sometimes you have to kind of talk to them and get more information. So this happen in that verification step. Make sense? Clear?
Mhm.
Mhm.
How about Ali? Clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now validation. So validation means kind of physically doing something. So let's say in this example here, you are seeing everything there. But now validation means you have to click on it and you have to make sure it takes you to the right place. It should take you to the home page. That's what you are validating. Validating means you are performing the real testing. So 90% of the time you're gonna do the validation as part of your what testing, right? You're gonna click on it, you're gonna make sure this thing take you to the right place, you're gonna make sure that the button is kind of clickable, there is no other issue. So those things you will kind of make sure. So let's go back to the chair example. So if the chair look like, so now let's say the chair has 4 legs, right? So you kind of confirm that this chair looks good, it meet the user requirement, right?
Mm.
So what would be the validation? What do you guys can think? So the validation is now you have to go and sit on the chair.
Mm.
To go and sit on the chair and make sure the chair is not gonna fall down. The chair has the material is built in properly, and the chair can able to hold your weight. You see, those things you're physically making that thing work. You're physically like testing it. So that's the word. So that's the validation. So validation is done at the development, at the end of the development process, means when. So when you guys think the validation is done?
When we test,
Testing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Clickable means is testing, right?
yeah.
Test also same thing.
Yes, the validation is actually happens in the testing phase.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the validation will happen. Um, so when you physically test something, that's called validation. And when you visually see something, visually kind of make sure that looks good or not, that's called verification. Um, so it answers like, so the validation it answer like, am I building the right product, or am I building the right thing? So to know if you're building the right thing or not, you have to try to see whether it is meet your requirement, meet your goal or not, right? So you're gonna kind of click on the website, you're gonna make sure that it takes you to the right page, it open up another tab or something like that, right? So those kind of question you will ask yourself whether it's gonna work, whether it's going to show me a video once I click something, those kind of things you can ask in this phase. Am I accessing the right data in terms of data um, requirements? So let's say the validation is means like only I'm the only person who can able to log in, right? Because I have the user account. So let's say another person who does not have any user account, can he able to log in? So those things you have to test, right? You have to make sure only the right user can able to log in.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Mm.
yes,
Everybody makes sense on everybody's clear on those two things, right? Verification and validation.
yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
So now you guys would be going back to your definition and maybe rewrite that based on what we learned. Okay,
Okay.
that would be a best approach, and maybe send that to me in the next as part of next homework assignment.
Okay.
And this is more like compare between verification and validation. In verification, you are asking, am I building the right product? Verification, you are asking, am I building the right product? And the validation means, am I sorry, so sorry, my bad. So the verification is, am I building the product right? Am I building it right? Like by looking at it, you can say whether the chair has 3 legs or 4 legs. By looking at it, you are just asking that. And the validation means, am I building the right product? Means like when you start testing it, or when you start applying your testing on that product, that's the validation.
Mm.
So this is more like for your understanding standpoint, those are there. Maybe you guys can kind of read through them, but if you understand those two definition, how I kind of explain it, and I think that would be good enough.
Okay.
Make sense?
Mhm.
So now let's kind of go back to really quick the homework assignment. So the homework assignment, guys, I mean, I would say try to do more research, and then send me the answer. 1 second. Okay. Oh, session 3. All right, let me skip the recording now. I think.